Welcome back to the Coalition of Friends YouTube channel. My name is Garrett, and today I'm bringing you a review for The Old Guard. It also marks a very historic day for this channel because your boy got a new camera, so everything's gonna get better around here. So The Old Guard came out on Netflix about 2-ish weeks ago, and I'm finally getting to it now, and boy howdy, was it so good. Like, if I had to give one word for this movie, in my opinion, that word is delicious. Which is a weird word to say, but, like, you want to watch more after seeing this movie. It's like a very good pilot episode that just leaves you wanting to see where these characters go and what the next installment brings, which is what this movie is for me. It's great. It drew me in. I love the characters, and I'll get into more reasons why I love this movie as I go on. But just for now, know that it's just a fucking delicious movie. What a weird thing to call a film delicious. So the film stars Charlize Theron, most recently in theaters for the movie Bombshell. Most famously, action-wise, for her role in Mad Max Fury Road. Don't know if you can see this because of the glare of the light, but I think this works. She's great in that film, and once again, she is just excellent in this film. She gives such depth to a character that she actually feels lived in as long as the character has lived in the universe that we're in. If you don't know what this movie is about, it's about immortals that can't get killed, which is the definition of an immortal, but they use that power to do good, and they're all super badass and whatnot, and stuff ensues. The next cast member is Kiki Layne, and she has one of the best written characters of 2020 so far. I love this character. Niall speaks so much to me, and she's just excellent in this film with the action, her emotional scenes, the way she's written is just perfection. Once again, like we talked about in Palm Springs, she's the audience surrogate character, so she gets told everything. So the audience gets told everything. Also, standouts are Joe and Nikki, played by Marwan Kenzari and Luca Marinelli. And they are so cute, and I'll get into it more later as to why. It's just, it's so good. So directing, camera work, cinematography, I think this movie is really good in that regard. All the shots are really well done. The action is filmed really well, especially going into the third act. The third act finale action scenes are just borderline fantastic. And then the very climax scene is just wowzers. You can have a character die one way and have the first action happen and the final action happen and not show the middle in between, but she showed the middle in between the whole thing. I thought that was maybe the best shot of the film. Mostly it had to be CG, but it was just really eye-opening to see someone want to show that way. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, go watch the fucking movie. So in between all the good, I'm going to talk about the bad in the film. The film decides to have a soundtrack, which is fine. Your movie can have that. And I'll admit, all the songs are very good on said soundtrack. It's how they're used. The best fight in the film takes place on an airplane between Andy and Niall. And that fight really has no stakes to it, just because it's those two characters. We know they're the main characters. Nothing bad is going to happen to them because it's a fight between themselves just to like learn stuff about each other, and it just reached that boiling point inside the plane to where it happens. So when you use a song instead of a score, the song works in that regard because it's lighthearted. You don't feel, there's no tension in that scene. It's very good. I'll say that scene is very good. But every consecutive action scene after that decides to have a song. But every action scene after that one has the tension that you need. And the songs just take away from that tension. You don't feel like anything bad will happen to these characters. Yes, I know they're immortal, so they can't die, but stuff is set up into the film that affects that aspect. So there is tension, and I don't like how the director or the editor decided to add the songs in. Should have used a score. That's what I would have done. There's also some logistical issues with the way the film is written. They're immortal, so when they get shot with gunshots, their wounds heal. However, Andy, for the entire fucking time in the film, has earrings in. And there's a scene later on when people are getting tested on about, like, wounds closing in on the needle. That was just fine because they talked about that, but, like, how can she have earrings in? Niall, even at the end of the film, has earrings in. So I'm just like, did you just forget that they healed themselves and went with this way? I don't know. I mean, the earrings work for the characters. Just the logistics of their wounds healing, it would just pop out their ear like a bullet wound. Your film can really only be as good as a villain. And the villain for this film is like a really bad Bond villain because it's insanely cartoonish. And for me, Harry Melling does it right, cartoonish-wise. Like, he goes for it. Does that mean it's good? Not really. I wasn't scared by this character at all. Really, I'm more scared of Harry Melling when he's a bully to his younger adopted brother, who happens to be a wizard. And that says something. If you can be a kid and be more frightening than your adult self. Uh-oh. I don't discredit the acting, by the way. I think he did good. I just feel like the writing for the villain was bad. Like, the villain's motivation was just for money. If you had it more grounded and make it that he was just for the science, just for wanting to save the human race, but these characters, that it's their lives that get cost, that's better for me. And it's kind of there. But I wish it was just more than just he's greedy and wants money. Because that's your normal scientist character. That's your normal billionaire scientist. And I don't like that about this movie. Let's talk about a more difficult subject. Queer representation in film is something that's not as highly regarded amongst us. Queers. I'm speaking for all of us at the moment because I've seen a lot of movies and I've seen a lot of television. People that are queer tend to be the quirky ones, the weird ones, the more flamboyant, etc., etc., etc. We never get to be represented as normal on screen. I think Sense8 is a good example of queer representation. This movie nails it in that regard. Joe and Nikki are such a fucking cute couple, and they're both such badasses and so cool, and they're so romantic with each other. And Joe has this amazing monologue that Marwan Kenzari gives during the film. And it's just so good. Like, it's what you say when you're gonna engage to someone. It's just that romantic and sweet. And just a punch to anyone who's watching this film is like, oh, it's gonna be manly for men. And it's gonna be filled with action. And then you meet these two gay characters, and they're just so sweet. And even though they're gay, they can still be badasses, and it's just cool to see that on scene. Like, if you're a little kid figuring stuff out, and you're worried that, people only see queers as feminine, that's not the case with this film. And I think this is good representation, especially for, like, not to say an adolescent should see this film, but also try to fix stereotypes that are in film in general. This film also brings the emotion. There was one backstory scene that is really rough for me to watch. And it's so heartfelt and so endearing. And I cared for these characters. It's a 2-hour and 5-minute movie. So that it has time to build these characters, and it does really well. And I just, like, the whole third act stuff that's happening. If you know what's happening, then you know. If you don't, go watch the fucking movie. But the whole third act fight stuff, the way the action is going, the way the characters are moving around and blocking bullets and everything, it was just, it was so tense, and that's the way it's a perfect way to bring this film to where you have these characters that are immortal, but you change something about it to where there is tension. So this whole third act was just really tense for me, and the fighting was happening was amazing. I'll say it again, the whole third act action stuff is just phenomenally well done. This isn't a dig on the film because it's to complement the quality of the CG, but all of the wounds healing was so gross to watch. Ugh, it was just not good. I didn't like it. It creeped me out. It was weird. And I know it's the abnormal, but like even further than that, it was just disgusting. And I'm okay with bloodied gore to a point. Like, I can't watch the Saw films because those are just gore fests. But like this one, like there's blood coming off of someone's neck when it gets sliced, and like natural gore, that is fine for me because it's more realistic. And I don't get as creeped out by it. It was just the wounds healing that really got to me, like, any time it happened. It was just yucky. And the way the film ends, it sets up to where this could be a multiple film franchise. At least let's get a second one, because it sets up for what they could do afterwards. And it sets up possible villains in the next film. At least what I think are going to be villains. And I'm excited to see how that... I just want more. I want to be in this world as much as possible. I wish it was a show. But with the film, we get higher quality stuff, so I'm happy in that regard. I just want more. I want more. Bring back all of these cast members. Bring back the same director. Greg Rucka wrote the comic book, and he wrote this film. So he did a very good job. I think this is a very well-written film, especially when it's your material that you wrote first. You can make it better, change anything if you want to. It's not like J.K. Rowling, who just fills everything into one film that doesn't need to be filled into one film. I also wish her weapon got to be used more. The first scene that it's used in is in a dark room underground. And the last scene, the second scene it's used in, is the finale, where it gets one swipe, or two swipes. And I want to see more of that weapon. I really thought it was a cool weapon. And hopefully they do that with the sequel. Maybe it becomes Niles. I would like that to see that happen, because she doesn't have, like, a weapon yet. I mean, they have their whole history of weapons, but I want to see Nile use that weapon. So yeah, I think this film has some great action that's filmed really well. Amazing characters that are written perfectly. Some minor bad stuff with the editing choices and what music they have. The villain isn't too great. So for me, I'm gonna give this a 9. If you wrote a better villain and just had a score in the fight scene, this would have been a 10. But it's just a bit too cartoony. It doesn't go in the great direction at one point that I think it could have gone to. Like, I don't like the science experiment stuff as much as, like, others would. Like I said, it's like a bad Bond film where it's just a bit too cartoony. In a world that's so grounded, not to say that Immortals are grounded, but everything else is grounded. Like, the danger is grounded, the action is grounded. They don't have superpowers, like they can fly. So relatively it's grounded to other films. So yeah, that's my review for The Old Guard. I really enjoyed it. I want to see more. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought about it. Give this video a like and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos of mine. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye! Today is also the day that the NHL Stanley Cup playoff qualification round begins. And I'm rooting for you, Chicago. Let's fuck up Edmonton. I don't know if we will, but I'm rooting for ya. Just please win at least one game so I don't like a complete idiot. I'm just happy that hockey is back, and it's going to be great. I think this playoffs are going to be amazing. I mean, super historical, even without just being COVID there. This season was really good. Truthfully, it could be anyone's. I would really love a team that hasn't won before to win, but I also want Chicago to win. I also think it's maybe going to be Boston or Tampa. Could also be Toronto, since they get to play hockey in August for the first time ever. They also get to play in July for the first time ever. And Crawford, you better be lights out in goal. or I'm gonna be really mad. This is the first time I get to root for you wearing this jersey, and oh boy, that'll be fucking worth it.